If I've said it once, I've said it 100 times. Does anybody listen to lyrics anymore? Today's episode's probably going to turn a few heads. This show is all about misinterpreted songs that may or may not be about getting it on. Today we're counting down 6 tracks you've been singing along to for decades. And they may be the ultimate double entendres, or they may not be. But today we're going to have it both ways because we're going to debunk tracks that people are certain are double entendres and those that maybe we're not sure of. Either way, I guarantee you it's going to keep you entertained. One of these songs was innocently put in a musical Hallmark greeting card for Mother's Day. But the last thing you would want to do is dedicate this song to your mother, or your wife for that matter. And then there's a track whose name doubles as a frozen yogurt chain. But when it was originally written, its lyrics were far too explicit to even be aired on radio. You're never going to look at a frozen yogurt the same way again after this one. Finally, there's the Jamaican dance floor anthem that sparked a viral internet rumor that put a whole new spin on the words good vibrations. But was it true? Get ready, because we're diving into a second volume of Misinterpreted Series, Bedroom Edition. Let's do it. Hey, music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. You know, if you ever played a mean game of Hungry Hippos back in the day, you're going to dig this channel of deep musical nostalgia. Make sure that you are subscribed, or subscribe if you're not. Make sure to like, comment, and share this video so we can keep the channel going. We're going strong. We're doing everything that we can. All right, it's time to set the record straight on some songs that have been truly misunderstood, misinterpreted, misrepresented. This time we're going to do songs that may or may not be about sex. So before we even get started, I got to give a couple of quick shout outs to Bryan Adams' Summer of '69 and Billy Idol's Dancing with Myself. Not going to spend too much time on it. We've already covered these songs before on their own episodes, so I won't go too into detail here. But I do want to point out that Bryan Adams was actually 9 years old in the summer of 1969. So I'm betting those weren't actually the best days of his life. And if you ask Bryan Adams, who co-wrote the song, he'd tell you that it was inspired by Bob Seger's Night Moves, and it was about getting laid in the summer, his words. Back in the summer of '69. Now it's for Billy Idol's Dancing with Myself. It's actually not about spending quality time with yourself. In 1979, Billy Idol was in Japan where he saw nightclubbing kids pogo dancing with their reflections in wall-length mirrors. They were literally dancing with themselves, kind of a new wave thing. We all did it. Thought it was a great idea for a song, and he was right, of course. All right, we're going to move on to the official countdown with those out of the way. To get things started, in at number 6, I got Cutting Crew with I Just Died in Your Arms Tonight. Parentheses on. Or as frontman Nick Van Eede has called it, a bracket song. We'll talk about that in a minute. So over the years, I know a lot of people have assumed that this song, it's about romantic love, about falling in love with someone, you know, love at first sight, that kind of thing. But if you parse through the lyrics, they tell a completely different story. Now, released as the lead single off his album Broadcast in July of 1986, Died in Your Arms went to number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100. It went to number 1 in Canada and number 4 in the UK. It was the first single from Cutting Crew's debut album. We were expecting big things from these guys. Not a bad way to start it out. Ever since then, people around the world have been metaphorically dying in each other's arms with this song as the soundtrack. I mean, if you look at how this song has been used in pop culture, I Just Died in Your Arms is often used for love at first sight moments. You know, everyone from Hot Rod's Rod Kimball to Lego Batman seems to have come under the spell after spotting that one girl or, you know, one significant other. Song's been used in Stranger Things and The Goldbergs and Hot Tub Time Machine and dozens of other movies and shows. In fact, it's become one of the top 20 songs from the 80s to be used in pop culture, moving on up the charts. But is anyone paying attention to the lyrics at all? I mean, going beyond the superficial falling in love interpretation of the song I'm talking about. Died in Your Arms, it's actually the exact opposite. It was actually inspired by a one-night stand between Nick Van Eede and his ex-girlfriend, who's also the mother of his daughter. And if you follow along with the lyrics, you get the feeling that he instantly regretted the particular encounter. I mean, if you think about the lyrics, lines like, who would have thought that a boy like me could come to this? Or now it's over, the moment is gone. I followed my hands, not my head. I know I was wrong. Nick sings about their night together as his final mistake, and he repeatedly comes back to the lyric that I should have walked away. So for all the romantic fluff built around this song, this isn't a fairy tale track about happy endings at all. Well, maybe a little. More on that in a second. Describing what actually happened that night, Nick said, and I quote, "It's a song written about my girlfriend. We got back together for one night, and I guess there were some fireworks, but all that time I was tinged with a feeling of, should I really be doing this?" Now, the morning after, Nick woke up, and that now famous title phrase, "it just came to him." And it makes even more sense when you discover where it comes from. In French, the expression "le petit mort," that translates to the little death. And this is a poetic euphemism for the weakened feeling that you experience after physical intimacy. Nick took that idea and he turned it into one of the most instantly recognizable opening lines of the entire decade. Here's what else he told me about it.
I have all my best titles, all my best lyric ideas written there. And over the years, the best picture is that of the ones that have been crossed out. And you'll see them through all the other songs. But at that stage, in 1985, there were a lot up there. And I wrote this song on keyboards, and I'm a guitarist-ish. So I wrote it on keyboards. And so I was looking up. Diary, it sits on, looking up. Bedside table, staying in the sun, and a time on the day, cradle. Cats in the cradle. Yeah. So I'm sorry, but I can't give you too many posh answers. The next one you ask me might be really special to my heart and whatever. But some of them are just rhyming fun and being bold enough to just be Romanian. You know what I mean? I use that expression, sorry, Romania. But you have to go, and then you end up there. So if that's a weird answer, it's an honest answer.
No, I love it. All right, coming in at the number 5 position, I got a band with one of the longest names out there and a catalog of some of the most goofy, off-the-wall songs that you're ever going to hear. Talking about the presidents of the United States of America and their top 10 alternative hit, Peaches.
Peaches for me, millions of peaches, peaches for free.
Formed in 1993 in Seattle, Washington, the Presidents of the United States of America originally consisted of 3 band members, singer and bassist Chris Ballou, guitarist Dave Dederer, and drummer Jason Finn. Across their 6-album career, the Presidents have written tracks about things like cats, dune buggies, volcanoes, tiki gods, supermodels, even Speed Racer's famous Mach 5. Nothing serious as far as you could tell. Their biggest mainstream hit, Lump, that came in at number 21 on the Billboard Hot 100 and number 1 in the alternative rock charts back in August of 95. The band will follow up Lump's success with Peaches, one of those songs that sounds really quite ridiculous on the surface. Then you hear the story behind it and realize it's even more ridiculous than we first thought. The song's story starts at a bus stop. PUSA frontman Chris Ballou, he was waiting for a ride when a homeless man walked past. He muttered something under his breath over and over, and that was it. And Chris caught the phrase, and he just couldn't shake it. I'm moving to the country. I'm going to eat a lot of peaches.
I'm moving to the country, gonna eat a lot of peaches.
And Chris thought, that's really interesting. Never heard a homeless guy talk about his future and peaches and the country quite like that. So I guess Chris was on his way to his girlfriend's place and he didn't have a guitar handy, so the phrase just rattled around in his head. Now later when he was back home with a guitar in his hand, he started building a song around this. In writing the track, Chris, he would also be joined by his bandmates. For instance, Dave Dederer, he contributed the line, actually a couple lines, millions of peaches, peaches for me, millions of peaches, peaches for free.
Millions of peaches, peaches for free. Come on!
But here's where the origin story takes kind of a weird turn. The song's verses that Chris wrote came from a real experience. Chris had taken some hallucinogenic drugs and he'd gone to visit a girl that he had a crush on, fully intending to reveal how he felt about her. However, she wasn't home, so Chris just sat down in her yard underneath a peach tree and he waited for like hours. He was high as a kite at this point. While waiting, he was smashing peaches in his fist and watching the juice run down. Chris's crush, she never showed up, and he didn't get to tell her what he was there to say in the first place. It's probably for the best. I mean, it's telling someone you're into them, you're in love with them when you're stoned out of your mind, really the best time to do it? Probably not. But regardless, Chris bottled up the whole strange, fuzzy afternoon and he turned it into the song. So is Peaches actually about peaches? That's the question. We talking about the Steve Miller Band kind of peaches here. In the Joker, when Steve Miller sings, really love your peaches, want to shake your tree. I wonder what that means.
Love your peaches, I want to shake your tree.
Those peaches aren't literal peaches. Yeah, well, for context, the President of the United States of America also had a song called Kitty that raises some similar questions, but we're not going to go there.
You kitty, y'all gonna spend the night. You kitty, y'all gonna spend the night.
Chris is aware of all these double meanings, but he insists the songs are about exactly what they're about, what he says. Nothing more. There's no double entendre. I've met some people who are adamant that Peaches is a song written about a specific part of the female anatomy and have called this a very raunchy song. There's quite a few out there. But honestly, I think that the presidents, they're just weird enough to write a song about peaches and actually have the song be about peaches. If you want to read more into that, you can go for it. But knowing the rest of this band's nonsensical catalog in the best possible way, and taking Chris at his word, I'm going to say that Peaches wasn't intended to be a double entendre. All right, next I got a song that has a little something to do with Good Vibrations, and I'm not talking about the Beach Boys here. This track may or not have some DIY implications, if you catch my drift. And we're not talking about Donovan's Mellow Yellow here. You may remember that I've covered that before about what Mellow Yellow is about. Mellow Yellow was not about a banana pill. Some people thought it was about smoking banana pills. It's actually about a little yellow gybrator. Put a V in front of that, and that's what it's about. Yep, that song that we've all sung along to, I used to sing it as a little kid, is about a instrument that a female used. Anyway, you get the picture. Coming in at number 4, I've got Electric Boogie, also known as the Electric Side, by Jamaican singer Marcia Griffiths. Originally released in 1983, a remixed version of the song was reissued in 1989 and went to number 51 in the Hot 100. Not exactly bottle lightning on the charts, but Electric Boogie would catch on in a big way in a different setting. Talk about weddings, bar mitzvahs, birthday parties, the like. Electric Boogie would become a dance floor favorite like YMCA, thanks to the Electric Slide Line dance fad. The story of the creation of Electric Boogie, that starts in a music shop in Toronto. While browsing, Marcia spotted a compact little keyboard with 100 plus different sounds programmed into it, and she really dug it.
Try this.
You remember when those Casio keyboards got popular in the 80s? That was fun. So she started playing around with this keyboard and she found a beat that she fell in love with and she ended up buying the keyboard and then she took it back home to Jamaica. And that's when she called her friend Bunny Wailer of Bob Marley and the Wailers fame. Now Marcia showed him the beat that she loved and then Bunny, he went to work with it. He actually layered together 11 different sounds from that one little rhythm box, that little Casio. Now, by the next day, he'd finished the song. But Electric Boogie, it didn't come out of nowhere. Creatively, at the time, Eddie Grant's Electric Avenue was killing it on the charts, and Wailer had a thought. Grant's song, it took you down Electric Avenue, but it never told you what you were supposed to do once you got there. Said Wailer about it, so you're going down Electric Avenue to do what? You must be doing the Electric Boogie. Fair enough. Electric Boogie was released by Marcia Griffiths in 1982, but it took the better part of a decade for the song to find its moment. It finally happened in 89 when choreographer Rick Silver created a line dance to go with the song The Electric Slide. Once the dance took off, that's when the song started really gaining momentum. Griffiths herself, she got swept up in it, saying that because of its popularity, she was forced to learn the dance and she had to perform it on stage whenever she did the song. That's not why Electric Boogie made it onto the countdown. If you jump ahead to 2018, a rumor began circulating on social media that Electric Boogie wasn't about dancing at all, but it was about a certain device that starts with a V and rhymes with gybrator. Okay, can't say it on here. The story spreads fast, and it was thanks to a website that claimed that Bunny Wailer said that he wrote the song after his girlfriend told him that she didn't need his help in the bedroom anymore because she had a toy that she nicknamed the Electric Slide. Yeah, that was the rumor. In the brief article, Bunny was quoted as saying, "I'm surprised it took people that long to figure this thing out." Now, the internet predictably lost its mind, but actually, the story, was it true? Turns out it was a fabrication, or at least interpreted differently depending on who you talk to. Bunny Wailer came out and shut the whole thing down, actually. He called the story a falsehood and saying that it offended his legacy and Griffith's reputation. Marcia, she wasn't happy with it. She told reporters plainly, "I don't sing about that. I sing to teach and to educate and uplift." So even though you could say the Electric Boogie is about good vibrations, we're not talking about those kind of good vibrations.
Even aware of vibrator. We don't know what vibrator was.
Exactly.
I am confused. I mean, I guess that article or the person that did the interview just made it up. I guess, apparently so. It's a good reminder, though, for us not to jump to conclusions, right? Just because you read something on the internet doesn't make it true. Or does it? Because as I was doing some research on this song, I did find some comments of people saying they only came out and said that after they were found out. But you know what? I'm going to believe Bunny Wailer and Marcia Griffiths here. But it is interesting that, there's probably quite a few people that still believe that the Electric Slide is about that because they read it.
Electric slide.
All right, coming in number 3, it's Little Richard's Tutti Frutti. For more than a few modern listeners, Tutti Frutti is best known as an innocent bubblegum classic from the 50s. We did cover it last year in our 50s countdown, but that got pulled down after a day due to, claims. So I want to go a little bit more into detail here. Now, the innocence of this song, the PG-rated interpretation that's been reinforced by decades of use in pop culture media, and the cover version, especially from artists like Pat Boone, squeaky clean Pat Boone. And, the part Top Secret. Before the term Tutti Frutti became a staple of the frozen yogurt industry, it was a raunchy staple of the Chitlin circuit that left little to the imagination, I'll tell you. At just 19 years of age, Richard Penniman, a.k.a. Little Richard, he signed his first recording contract with RCA Records in 1951. From there, he moved to Peacock Records, but by 1954, he had nothing to show for either contract. Just a string of failed singles and zero chart action. So Richard packed it in and he headed back to his hometown of Macon, Georgia, where he picked up a job washing dishes at a Greyhound bus station. But Little Richard wasn't done with music. In 1955, he scraped together a rough 2-song demo and he mailed it to Art Roop at Specialty Records. Now, Roop heard Richard's potential and he bought out his contract from Peacock for $600. $600 well spent. Little Richard's phenomenal. He was phenomenal. So paired with producer Bumps Blackwell, Little Richard finally had the right team around him. Now, all he needed was the right song, which most people need, right? They're trying to make it. That moment, it came on September 14, 1955, but not exactly as planned. The recording session that day, it was going nowhere. They were grinding through standard blues material, and it was really flat. Nobody was feeling it. So they took a break at a nearby joint called the Dewdrop Inn. There, Little Richard sat down at the piano and he just cut loose, hammering out this completely unhinged little number that he called Tutti Frutti. He was just kind of howling, whooping, wailing. The room was electric. Said Bumps, Richard jumped on the piano. He started screaming Tutti Frutti. I knew it was going to be a hit. There was only one problem. The original lyrics were not fit for radio, especially not 1950s radio. Tutti Frutti wasn't about a girl named Sue or Daisy that almost died for crazy. It's an X-rated ode to good booty. Beyond good booty, really. It's pretty dirty. Bumps knew the song was a smash, but the lyrics, they weren't going to fly. And as for that opening nonsense phrase, that actually has a lot of history. Back in his dishwashing days, whenever Richard's boss kept piling up more pots for him to scrub, he couldn't exactly talk back to the big man, so he'd holler that phrase as a code of way to show his frustration, kind of like telling him to, take off. Said Richard, I couldn't talk back to my boss man. I said, That's what I meant at the time, and so I wrote Tutti Frutti in the kitchen, really. To clean up the song for radio, though, Bumps, he brought in songwriter Dorothy Labastri, and she reworked the verses. She swapped out the original Good Booty chorus for the now famous Tutti Frutti Ah Rudy. You know, that was slang for all right. Once it hit the airwaves, Tutti Frutti, it sold 200,000 copies in a week and a half. Spent 22 weeks on the R&B chart, reaching number 17 on the pop chart. And by 1968, it had moved over 3 million copies and a landmark of rock and roll. And to think the name of the song that was originally about good booty, well, even dirtier than that, it went on to become a chain of over 100 frozen yogurt shops across America. Oh man, if they only knew. The frozen yogurt establishments were named after oral, well, you get the point. Anyway. All right, in at number 2, I got Brick House by the Commodores. You know, by the mid-70s, the Commodores were one of the hottest acts on the planet. They burst onto the scene in 1974 with Machine Gun, a heavy hard drive and funk record that put the world on notice for sure. From there, it just kept rolling, though, with albums like Caught in the Act and Moving On, locking down their reputation as one of funk's premier outfits. The whole band shared writing duties, and the hits just kept coming. There was Slippery When Wet and Sweet Love in 1975, Just to Be Close to You in 1976, Easy in 1977.
Sweet love, well, just to be close to you. Got some reason.
But nothing they'd done quite prepared anyone for what was next in 77. The top 5 Hot 100 smash, Brick House. Here's how it came together. The Commodores needed one more song to finish their self-titled album, so guitarist and trumpet player William King was sent home with a simple assignment. Just write something. And he sat down, he tried to think of an idea, and he fell asleep. And when he woke up, there was a pad of paper lying on his chest, and it was just covered in lyrics. His wife, Shirley Hannah King, she was also a songwriter, and she had written the lyrics while he was out cold. William brought him back to the band, and they laid them over a groove that the group had cooked up in a jam session that was really, really funky, and they brought Brick House to life from there. Now, the track was sung by drummer Walter Orange with Lionel Richie on saxophone. But let's talk about what Brick House is actually saying. This is where it's going to get a little fun. And I'm going to tell you a story about a Hallmark Mother's Day card to drive the meaning home. All right, so get this. In 2008, Hallmark released a line of greeting cards with little sound chips inside that played famous songs when you opened them. Everybody remembers when that happened. It was a fun idea, right? You know, there were cards that had Star Wars and Harry Potter and all that kind of stuff. But there were cards for all occasions, including Mother's Day, of course. And someone along the way, while developing this initiative, this great idea, they decided that Brick House would make a perfect, wholesome soundtrack for Mother's Day cards. You know, an empowering anthem about the strength and resilience of women. It would just really touch their hearts. A little something to show some gratitude for the moms of this world. But yeah, man, were they off. In case you didn't know, the lyrics to Brick House are about a woman with a seriously impressive figure. According to Lionel Richie, the words brick house are a play on the phrase built like a brick shit house. That refers to a woman who is strongly endowed in all the right physical areas. It's also why you hear that dramatic horn fill between the words brick and house, kind of driving that point home. That pause is doing a lot of the work. In 1970 slang, calling a woman a brick house was a straight-up compliment for someone who was powerful, curvaceous, and had solid physique. So the song isn't a statement of moral character, but a compliment of a woman whose physical appearance could stop a man dead in his tracks. Maybe even had a little junk in the trunk. Now imagine, if you will, a son giving his mama a Mother's Day card. The star is singing this when she opened it.
I like big butts and I cannot lie. You other brothers can't deny.
Yeah, I don't think that would go over too well. But it's no different than the many mothers who opened their cards on Mother's Day and heard this. Yeah, a little awkward, especially if you know the lyrics. Like I said, nobody done hears the lyrics anymore or listens to them. All right, so before I get to number 1, I do have an official honorable mention, The Lemon Song by Led Zeppelin. Okay, if you've ever listened to the lyrics of this one with even a halfway dirty mind, it's pretty easy to figure out The Lemon Song isn't about a trip down the produce aisle. But I wanted to share the story of how the sisters from Heart were scandalized by this song as teenagers. It's a really funny story. So Nancy explained that in May of 1969, the two actually walked out of a Led Zeppelin show at the Green Lake Aqua Theater in Seattle, Washington. Nancy would have been about 15 at this time, and Ann was 18 going on 19. And at the time, they actually didn't know much about Led Zeppelin. They were actually there to see another band. I think it was the Fifth Dimension. In the meantime, they caught Zeppelin's show, but they were completely freaked out about Robert Plant's stage presence. They couldn't believe their eyes. She said that he was so suggestive with his shirt wide open and his low-riding jeans. And Nancy went on to explain that they were just these square little hippie chicks from the suburbs. They had never seen anything like that before. So when Robert Plant started singing about squeezing lemons, they were completely shocked and they left the show right away, just walked out. That's right, the Sisters of Heart actually walked out on Led Zeppelin. But of course, they would ultimately come around, even performing the Gettysburg of Rock, Zeppelin's own Stairway to Heaven, in front of the band decades later, and of course, one of their biggest influence, if not their biggest influence. All right, so claiming the number one spot in this countdown, it was pretty easy. It was just which song do I choose from Prince? But I'm going to go with the Kick It in Overdrive single, Little Red Corvette. And maybe the meaning behind this one should be obvious, right? Because Prince always sang about this stuff. Pretty much every song in his catalog for a while was either overtly sexual or had some kind of undertone to it to that. I'm looking at you, Cream. Get on top, Cream. I cannot tell you how many people that I've talked to over the years, good friends, who believe that Little Red Corvette is actually about a Little Red Corvette. They think it's about a car. But I can't really blame them. I mean, we all love driving songs like Start Me Up from the Stones and Let's Go by the Cars. Wait a second. I don't think those are about driving. All right, even though Little Red Corvette isn't actually about getting behind the wheel of a car, it's a story that at least starts in one. Prince reportedly wrote the song after falling asleep in the backseat of his bandmate Lisa Coleman's beat-up 1964 Mercury Montclair Marauder. Not exactly your typical sleek sports car, more like a vintage clunker, but somewhere between dozing off and waking up, the idea for Little Red Corvette, it took shape. Prince swapped the Mercury for a Corvette. Of course, the rest is history. The song itself, though, has an abundance of metaphors in the SEX variety. Lines like a pocket full of horses, Trojans, some of them used. They're not subtle once you think about it. Of course, Prince is doing what he always does, painting a picture of someone who burns through one-night stands at a high-octane pace. And this one. Love him and leave him fast. And when his opportunity comes, he starts to worry and wonder if he had enough class. But since this is Prince that we're talking about, legend, that moment of self-doubt, it doesn't last very long. So it's no surprise when he sings about how he's going to try to tame her, that little red love machine. You see what I'm talking about here. And of course, at the very end, I mean, the song makes it painfully obvious. Part of the song's brilliance is how Prince flips the typical car/sex metaphor to make it about a woman. Prince purposefully used the Corvette, which is a symbol of masculine power, to embody his female character, flipping traditional gender roles and creating a crossover hit that conservative radio didn't really catch on to. Little Red Corvette was released in 1983 off Prince's multi-platinum double album 1999, and it went to number 6 on the Billboard Hot 100, becoming one of Prince's first major crossover hits. Put him on the map, really. The following year, Prince would summon a perfect storm with his magnum opus Purple Rain, trading in the Little Red Corvette for a motorcycle. The film and the album kicked out 4 top 10s, including the number ones When Doves Cry and Let's Go Crazy. Man, you got to give Little Red Corvette a lot of credit for setting the stage here. It's one of the most pivotal tracks of his career.
Give me them keys. I'm gonna try to tame you. You know what I'm talking about?
So what do you think? Should we do another entry of misinterpreted songs? We did one before where we covered quite a few songs from the 90s, but I really like kind of going across the decades here. Let me know in the comments section. I always find it funny, and this happened a couple of weeks ago. I was doing some karaoke and reading the lyrics as I was singing, and like, I've been singing this lyric incorrectly for a decade, several decades. It's always funny when you read the lyrics, and sometimes the lyric sites get them wrong or whatever. But, you know, we hear what we hear. But, yeah, people don't really listen to lyrics very often. At least that's what I've found. Let's have a great discussion below. Let's talk about these songs. What other songs should we cover? We'd invite you to subscribe, be a part of our community. Until next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends.